shouldn't at the door just put the finger on you. You're trying to get that thing looking for the. And then we'll put it on the you should, but don't do it. I know. And just look up missing parts.
You're getting it? Okay.
Yeah, to the point I was like standing right in front of the camera.
Yeah. Yeah, you're like right in front of the camera, so yeah. Okay.
It's working?
He has it up. I was about to ask you. He was a good test.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yes, like, yeah, I already tested it, so.
You're not Force Age. What is this Force Age?
Tony is here somewhere.
Yeah, she was here, but she, I don't know, she probably stepped out.
I'll call her. Well, she had questions.
Oh.
Talk to me.
This is the live stream camera, so we need to do the view where you guys want to see this before it starts.
This is not, I'm not even here. I have to leave. That's not what I said.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that it picks up a wide angle, that's why.
How do you think today?
Many who have not met yet, but I look forward to working with you and all of our stakeholders for what will be our newest park in District 2. So I know that we have a
Can you have a seat? You're blocking the live stream camera.
information and allow people who want to speak and provide their input on this park development project. So I'm going to be sticking around. I'll be here to the very end, and then some. I'm going to turn it over to Cindy, who's our project manager on this project, and she will introduce the rest of the project team. So I want to thank everybody for being here this evening, and we look forward to working with everyone. Thank you.
I'm Sandy Jenkins. I am the Parks and Recreation Manager. I'm in charge of building new parks in San Antonio. I'm excited to say that our newest park is at 803 North Cherry. It's approximately 3 acres and is a blank slate. So we are excited to bring a park and to bring what you all want to see in your community into the park. So I just wanted to give you a few notes. Restrooms are over there. And thank you to Ella Austin for hosting us. We appreciate that very much. The staff has already informed me that they would like to close the gates at 8 o'clock if at all possible. So we'll try to wrap things up and keep things going. I do want to make sure that you know that we have 3 meetings that are planned. However, depending on how things go tonight and at the next few meetings, we may need to have more. And that's okay, because we want to make sure that what you all want in your new park is what we deliver. We have finish.
If quick announcements only for Spanish speakers, if any. ¿Hay alguna persona que necesite servicios de interpretación? Levante la mano. Nobody.
I wanted to make sure that everybody knows that this event is being live streamed, and so it's actually on YouTube. And so in the event that you have somebody that may not be able to make it, or that wants to review this meeting after the fact, it's going to be on YouTube, and it is going to be live streamed. Yes. I also have sign interpreters available for anybody who may need that service. So, I know several of you, but I don't know all of you. I've been with the city for 21 years, and the fact of the matter is that at one time, there were people working for the city who recommended that the Hay Street Bridge be demolished. A gentleman by the name of Doug Stedman stepped up to the plate. And then he didn't.
Doug Stedman had nothing to do with it.
Okay, Denny.
Nothing to do with it.
Ma'am, please be respectful.
But don't tell lies.
Doug Stedman took a big opportunity to come and raise money to make Hay Street Bridge. We have CCI that's here, and they actually maintain the Hay Street Bridge. And now we have this wonderful new 3 acres next to Hay Street Bridge to develop into a park. So at this point in time, I would like to introduce our consultants, Dunaway and Associates, Brian Mass, to introduce his team, and then we can get on with the show. And then we're going to take some public input as well as discuss our next steps, which is going to be the next venue and the next meeting format.
Thank you all for all coming tonight. It is great to see. This is a lot of public meetings I go to. We actually all have each other. So this is a little bit different. I'm not numbered you. So I'm Brian Mask. I'm a landscape architect. I've worked in San Antonio for about 20 years. I've been very fortunate to work with Sandy for a lot of those years and been able to work on great parks. Breckenridge Park. We just recently finished the Green Line Park. So we're very familiar with the city, and we've lived here our whole life. I'm going to go over the agenda for tonight, and I know it's a little blurry. I hope y'all do it. I'm gonna let the rest of the team introduce themselves in a second. But as Sandy mentioned tonight, this is the first of 3 public meetings. And if we need more, we'll have more. But tonight's goal is to just hear from you, to hear the history, and to hear what you would want. We have no preconceived concepts of what this park is going to be. It's all, we want to hear from you. So that's the focus for tonight. The second meeting, we'll start developing concepts. We'll let you review it. Sometimes it'll be one, sometimes it'll be a couple of concepts. And then in the third, if we've kind of reached an agreement, we'll revise and we'll show a final concept plan in the third meeting. So the other items we're going to talk about tonight is we're going to talk about the park site a little bit, do a little bit of site contact. We're going to talk a little bit about the non-historic and cultural resources. Like I said, we're just getting started, so we're learning every day. We've only been working on doing a little bit of research for about a week, and so we're in the process of learning. We've got a little existing site map that we're going to talk about. What we see as professionals to consider. We'll talk about the park's benefits, and that'll help us get our mindset about what kind of park to provide for the community. We'll talk about some of the parks in the neighborhood. There's some other parks, and they have some existing amenities, and you're going to have some proposed amenities. We'll talk about those, so you know what's in the area. Then we're going to go through program elements, and those are what the amenities, what the park can have in it. And we categorize them just to get us thinking about what those things could be. We're going to have passive elements, we're going to have active elements. We're going to talk about where there's some community education opportunities. And then we're going to talk about the historic and the cultural resource opportunities. After we finish that, we'll take some questions and comments. And then after the questions and comments, we're going to have a little interactive section. Some people don't feel comfortable standing up and talking in front of a large crowd. So we'll have a couple of options. We're going to have some note cards up here if you want to write down your thoughts, what you'd like for it to be, concerns. And then the other thing we're going to do is we're going to turn all these boards around, and they're going to have some of these amenities as I discuss them. And we're going to give you dots. And there's some dots up here. We're going to give you, Sarah, how many is it, 4 dots? There's 4 dots. One's red and the other one's yellow, orange, and such. But the red dot is for y'all to place on one of these amenities that you don't want. The other dots are all to place on things that you would like to see. And this is not just the beginning of the list. If there's other things you'd like to see, please write it on the note card or in the question comment. Shout out what you would like to see at that point. So I'm going to let Tara stand up and introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Tara Lindberg. I'm a landscape architect from San Antonio. I've been doing work at the Tobin Center, stuff at the Pearl, and lots of other neighborhood parks. I'm extremely excited about this one because I actually live in Denver Heights, so this bridge means a lot to me. And so I'm really excited to be here and to work with you on this project.
I'm Donna Carter, and I'm with Carter Design Associates. It's an architectural and preservation.
Let's have some lights on.
Architectural and preservation firm. I am out of Austin, Texas. I do
those elements, those infrastructure elements, as well as historic preservation, as it relates to the community. And Tara, if we could have the next slide, really looking at the neighborhood that is right adjacent to this park. And that's where you're going to help me, and hopefully at the end I'll be able to work with how that goes into a park. But I really want to hear the stories and the history of this neighborhood. I will tell you, if I look at the city of San Antonio's site, and they talk about the historic districts, and they talk about the Dignowity heritage area, I see, a very broad, and normally in the terms of buildings, a very broad historic history. And it talks about, the larger buildings, some of which are not even there anymore. And what I don't see is that continuation, that continuum, that thread of history right to the present day. The story, as we look at people that infilled that area, as we look at the African Americans and the Latino population that came to that area, that live in those vernacular cottages. So for me, yes, I deal with buildings, but for me, it's the people within those buildings and the stories that we tell. When we talk about the education, how this community was educated, who took that on their shoulders. When we talk about what happened in integration or in segregation and who took the community on their shoulders to keep that community alive and vibrant. And we'll see some examples about how that's been incorporated into other parks. So for me, it is the building, but it is now how we bring that community and how we can use the park and how that park can start to tell those stories. But we have another story with the park, and that is the story of the railroad and the bridge itself. And the actual pictures, the images, it's a very elegant structure, but it also has pieces of it that can start to give us details. When we think about trains, when we think about the details on the trusses themselves, the structures that we look here, don't really see it, but even as we look at the truss itself and the pieces of that truss, that can start to give us pieces and elements that can be repetitive and be part of the park so that we know where we are, we have a sense of place, and really knitting those things together. And as we go forward, we even look at where it is. We look at Cherry Street, and we know that that's changed over time. Well, how can that really be an asset as opposed to a barrier, or as opposed to all of the bad memories we may have about that street? So as we listen, or as I listen tonight, I'm going to be looking about or hearing and trying to listen about the elements that are going to give this park roots within the neighborhood that have meaning for the older people that are there, the younger people, new people that are going to come into the area. And so that's what I'm hoping that you're going to be able to tell me so that we can bring that. The other thing that I think that we do need to think about, and I know I'm supposed to be here to listen, but I do want to throw out a little sort of tidbit, is how we can bring those stories in that park through art and through contemporary art. Give people that are artists within our neighborhood now to help us tell those stories. And there's a wonderful project, a colleague of mine in New Orleans, and this is a different context. They're talking about removing the Confederate monuments. But they wanted to put something in its place. So they actually did something they called paper monuments. And they literally had people write stories on paper, that those papers, those stories, were converted into posters that were then put all through the neighborhood. People could vote on the posters, which ones they wanted to elevate to pieces of art. And actually just compiling those posters is a wonderful story. And then that's a way of animating space next to that bridge, bringing that to life without taking away from the actual bridge itself. In Austin, we did it with the Downs Field, an old Negro League field. And we use that as part of the gating system, as an art piece, but to bring to life the stories of the individual players that actually played at that field. So tonight, and as you go back, and this is not a one-time thing, this is something that can go on for many months, if not years, and continue to be a treasure trove of things that can be added to the project over time. So I want to just plant that seed. And in that process, Everett Fly, I know, has been working with the African American Community Archive and Museum. There will be a chance to start to tell some and to write down and to get down some of those oral histories. So I hope you will take advantage of this opportunity to get that little piece kind of started. Right, and so even collecting them so that, you know, we can start to use that as a base.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the project side. I mean, y'all are all very familiar with it. But we're going to talk about a few things that we observed, and then y'all will add to the information we have. So, of course, the project side is the yellow block in the center. This outer circle right here is a 5-minute walk radius. A 5 to 10 minute walk radius for a park is very important. You see a lot of users, you see the community really engage with that distance. Get a little bit longer and a little bit hotter if they want to get in their cars, and sometimes they don't want to get in the car and make that trip. So we put that up just to give you a visual reference of what a 5-minute walk would be. Within that 5-minute walk and within some of the areas adjacent to it, we do have some other parks. The Lockwood Legal Park, there's Maverick Park in the area as well, and the Healy Murphy Park as well. All of that, we'll talk a little bit more about that, but there's other parks with other amenities, and so we need to consider that when we think about the project amenities that are in place. So, quick site analysis. We spent some time out at the site. Tara's very familiar with the site. She spent a lot of time on the bridge. A couple of things to think about is there is a railroad. Now, it is a quiet zone, but there's just noise from the trains running by. There's a little bit of noise there. The prevailing winds from the southeast, which will be, just when we're thinking about structures and we're thinking about amenities, where you want to set those to get the best wind through the area. The connection to the bridge is going to be very important. There's a set of stairs that go down onto this property, and making that connection to the bridge is going to be very important. There's views from the bridge. Everybody's seen the picture of the, going towards the downtown of San Antonio, but I think the unique thing about this park is we're also going to have a view from the bridge down to the park. So anything we design in the park, there's not a lot of parks where you have that view. There's some other parks, like in New York at Highline, where actually the park is elevated, but then it goes over other parks, and you can just, it's a very neat experience, and you don't get to see that a lot. And so this park has a great opportunity for that. There is a old railroad easement between this property and the adjacent park, which has a chain link fence around it, just a parking lot. And of course, there's pedestrian access to the bridge further down. We need to talk about how does that access point get to this park as well. That's just the general site analysis. We put this in here because as we develop the concepts, this is the view, an aerial view, just to give you a little bit more context of the site and the scale of it and the bridge and the surrounding areas. But as we develop concepts, we're going to be working to integrate the concept into this. It helps us provide everybody a little bit better visual image of what it could become. We took photos of the site, and when we first took the photos of the site, that still had all the construction debris everywhere. They've actually cleaned it up since then, so it looks a little bit nicer in the center shots. There is that big drainage structure that sits next to one of the buildings. That railroad easement actually drains a lot of the site runoff to that drain inlet, and it's just something we need to be thinking about to maintain the drainage. There's some temporary art underneath the bridge. We talked about the landing, and then of course Cherry Street, wide road, nice new sidewalks is adjacent to the park on one side. So when we talk about what are the benefits of parks, this is just like I said, this will help us start thinking about what the elements could be. We know parks improve the physical and mental health of those that use the area, really improves the community. We know it increases the value of the neighboring properties. We know there's environmental benefits, just planting trees and grass. There's social and community development benefits. And then there's the provides a sense of community stewardship, which you already have. Y'all have that stewardship with the bridge. That's why y'all are here, because you believe in something. So we can do all kinds of amenities, but until people are using the park, that's the last thing that makes it work. So some of those adjacent parks we talked about. Dinwiddie currently has some bench seating, some artwork. Lockwood has some fitness equipment, a pavilion court, basketball court, playground, some trails. The women's course, we all know Dinwiddie Lockwood's going to be improved, and the proposed improvements of that is the pavilion and some picnic tables. So I just wanted to not serving the community, meaning more, or is the community covered? Some of those elements, I'll turn these around after we're done that. These are just ideas to get us to think. Maybe it's something you hadn't thought about, but it's not, like I said, it's not the entire list. It's just to get us thinking. So when we talk about program elements, we can talk about active elements. This is where people are, recreation, more typical park. We've got examples of playgrounds for a variety of things, which I've seen that's one of the biggest benefits of the park is just having a piece of grass. And then swings and then trails. A little jogging trail that can eventually tie into the bigger trail network that all of San Antonio has been fortunate enough to develop towards the parks. When you talk about passive elements, so these are areas in the park, pavilion structures. This is actually the one in Green Line up there. And then the flexible green space, which there's some opportunity for yoga, maybe some markets in that space. Community education elements, community garden, low impact development, and low impact development is using water runoff to improve water quality. So when we have rain events, we can collect that water and we can use it for rainwater harvesting. We can use it and just clean the water, and we can educate those about those types of features. And that ties into environmental education. This could be a great opportunity to educate the community about the environment. The historic cultural resource, Donna talked a little bit about the historic, which with some public art, we think it's a great opportunity to highlight the bridge and talk about the bridge. You can see public art up in the left corner. There's signage opportunities. The far right is some paving. You can talk about the bridge. We can talk some of that structure that Donna mentioned in the paving. The middle picture is a wall, interpretive wall that kids and adults can come in and make art and then wash it off and start again and try it again. It always changes. And then I know some of y'all probably can't see, but this park will be the setting for people to view the park. And there's a lot of Golden Gate Bridge. There's a lot of great parks out there that have made that setting for the park, for the bridge. So, like I said, tonight is really to hear about y'all. So I wanted to get through this pretty fast. So we'll take your comments and questions, and then after that, if y'all want to come up here and do the dots, we'll turn the boards around, and then we'll have comments.
So, a couple things. These comment cards here are for you to be able to write if you don't want to speak. You can draw on the back if you'd like to. So this is how we're going to collect a lot of the input. At this time, I do have some folks that are signed to speak. We do have, we're asking for a 2-minute limit, if at all possible, because there is a time limit with our maintenance man that was so generous to help us out tonight. He's got kids at home that he takes care of.
neighborhood. Okay, it's me and 2 other people. Okay, hands people who have lived here for at least 10 years. We've got a few more, hands down. So I'm thinking that most of you all are rather new to the area and don't have a clue. So that's why I'm here. I hope I don't piss you off, but I can get to a lot of people. 80 years old, born on the corner of Center and Olive Street, right across from the Colored Harbor Library Auditorium. And yes, back in the day, you couldn't go to the white schools and you couldn't borrow books from the white library. So everything had to be within our community. And if anybody read Elena Ayala's column of about 3 or 4 weeks ago when she talked about the Hay Street Bridge and things? Everybody subscribes to the experience? She related the fact that my father had a Dodge called Blitz, and he would put my brother and I in it and take us across the Hay Street Bridge and show us a higher altitude that we could aspire to, and not the ground that we were walking on that was all segregated and Jim Crow segregated, so that we could aspire to higher things. So I've done that all my life. First African American from San Antonio to graduate from the University of Texas in Austin, a part of the group that integrated that bad boy. Washington at 63 after teaching 3 years in SAISD, and marched with Dr. King and heard him give his I Had a Dream speech in Washington, right next to the Lincoln Memorial. So I've been involved in civil rights for a very long time. I came home after retiring, and Mario Salas, hands for people who've ever heard of Mario Salas. Mario Salas was our councilman at the time, and I learned that the city of San Antonio wanted to dismantle the bridge, and I wasn't going to have that. Now when I came home, I live about 6 blocks from where I was born, right on Burleson Street around the corner. So I drew up a petition. I took it to the Hay Street community, found a lady who was willing to work with me to distribute it among the community. We got 200 signatures. I took it to Mario Salas, and that ended the dismantling of the bridge. I then began working on saving the bridge. Now somebody started off with a lie. Doug Stedman had nothing to do with this. Once I started the Hay Street Bridge, he's a white guy and I'm a black lady, so you know how that happens. When I started the Hay Street Bridge restoration group, there were people who had an interest in it, particularly part of the development community who knew the history of the bridge, because it had originally been down in Uvalde. The railroad came late to San Antonio, and when it came right at what is now the area where the railroad station is, and it's not Sunset Station, it's the first, it's right down the street here, the little building, that's there right now. And they stopped the trains, and it stopped the traffic going on Congress and Houston Street, so people couldn't get downtown. So people brought the bridge from Uvalde and put it over Hay Street, and that was the beginning of the Hay Street Bridge. I've known it all my life in 80 years. So I worked to, one, save it, and then to begin to get the monies and the federal government willing to work with us to restore it. I got the railroad, which is hard to work with, to donate the bridge to the city of San Antonio. I sat in Berkeley Dawson's office with Marcy Ince of the Conservation Society and invited Doug Stedman, because he was a part of that development group to go about the bridge, to sit with me and begged the Dawson family to donate the land next to the Hay Street Bridge, so that once we got it restored, that it would become a park to celebrate the history of the Near East Side, African Americans, and particularly the railroad. Because it was because of the railroad going from New Orleans in particular over to Oakland, California, and then eventually going up north to Chicago, that brought a lot of economic development to San Antonio and jobs and middle class standards and status for the black people who lived in this community. Because we were one of 2 black communities post-emancipation. Ellis Alley, right there in St. Paul Square, and across the street from the Institute of Texan Cultures, which is now a big apartment thing, the Baptist Settlement. So this is Black history here, and I wanted to retain it. Was successful in getting the federal government to work with us and other donors to help us to restore the Hayes Street Bridge. Once the city of San Antonio and a couple of crooks, Pat DiGiovanni, who was the deputy city manager at the time, and Cheryl Scully, who was the city manager, got wind of what it could be for near downtown San Antonio. They decided they were going to take it over. Young man had wormed his way into ex-mayor Hardberger's heart. The beer business was exploding all over the place. Got with Cheryl Scully and Pat DiGiovanni and said, I'm renting Blanco for my beer. Can I build my beer thing right there on that land that got donated to the city of San Antonio? And they said, sure, boy, you can have it. So they essentially gave it to him. They said, we'll sell it to you for $295,000. However, we'll give you $295,000 in tax breaks, incentives, do some landscaping. When we found out what happened, we immediately sued them. Had a jury trial, Judge Canales' court, we won. Cheryl Scully doesn't like to lose. She took it to an appellate level. That appellate level said just because we were a group of citizens, we did not have standing to sue the sovereign city of San Antonio. So Cheryl took that as something that was a win for the city of San Antonio. And the guy who was losing money, because this is taking years, you know, most cases take years, he bought the land on the other side of the Hayes Street Bridge. But the city gave him a license to put restaurant tables, chairs, umbrellas on the bridge so that he could make money off of it. We found out, federal government sent the city of San Antonio word, you commercialize this bridge and you give us the $2.9 million that we are spending to restore this bridge. So he redeeded the land on, bought land on the south side and built his place, and redeeded the land to another developer. 3 times to Historic Design and Review, they came with plans for apartments, expensive upscale apartments, and Historic Design and Review said no, because you're ruining the view shed, and the citizens of San Antonio do not get a chance to have the view shed of the bridge. You can't see it from Lamar and Cherry Street, and that sort of thing. Now, our plans for the park were, because it was going to be a part of the Howard Peak Hike and Bike Trail that would connect the Museum Reach of the San Antonio River through the Eastside over to the Salado Creek Hike and Bike Trail at the golf course and where AT&T and Joe Freeman are. So our plans were to have bathrooms, water fountains for the hikers and bikers. And because we knew other people were going to enjoy that view shed, maybe to see fireworks once a year if nothing else, we would have a pavilion on a palapa so that our community could have quinceañeras and celebrate weddings. We could do bouncy thingies, those blow-up ringy thingies, so birthday kids can celebrate, because that's what our community is about. And then at that far end, down at Lamar Street, we could do escape thing, so that our young men who are risking their lives, on women, okay, on women, Lady 137 would not be endangered. And so it would be an active park that celebrates our city. And we had people who were going to donate antique railroad cars so that we could put them permanently there on the railroad tracks there. And we would celebrate the history of the railroad and what wonderful things they did for San Antonio, and particularly the African American community moving from slavery to middle class status that many in the East Side are now. And that's what we wanted to do. And then the city stole it from us. We went to the Texas Supreme Court. We went to the Texas Supreme Court, and finally last year, the Texas Supreme Court found for us. The city is finally saying, okay, maybe we have to have a park. So what did they do? The guy that they deeded the land to, that we got for free, they gave to this new developer. He swapped it. Did you read that in the newspaper? He has offered to swap the Hay Street Bridge land, originally worth $300,000 all them years ago, beginning of the 20s, for land further south on Cherry Street, across from, guess what, the Alamo Dome, worth millions of dollars. And the city of San Antonio are going to let him do it. Now, what I'm saying is, I think I finally have the land that I sat to Berkeley Dawson and asked him to donate to the city. And the only thing he asked was to name the park for my family. And we said, that's the easy thing to do, because we got a Dawson Street just a couple blocks away. But now the city doesn't even want to honor that. And what that crook, Pat DiGiovanni, who had to leave the city of San Antonio because of fraud, and leave a second job a year later because of, guess what? Fraud. He put in the document that accepted the land. If it becomes the park, it will be named for the Dawson family. So understand, this ain't the Hay Street Bridge Park. It's the Dawson Park. And I hope that we do the things we originally planned until the city, with this unholy self, gave it away.
That specifically, the name of the park will be the Berkeley B. and Vincent M. Dawson Park.
Okay.
I'll keep this short and sweet, and I appreciate the education that you gave us there. I had no idea of this history behind the park itself. Thank you very much for that. My name is Damian Sandoval. I am the owner of Alpha Vista Skate Shop, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the skateboarding community and hopefully roller skate community, BMX community, and every other action sport community that falls under those lines, because we want to put our input into this park as something that can be a little bit more than something specifically just for District 2, but something that will benefit the city. In recent times, I was residing in Houston, and they had a similar situation. And they actually took a park and they made Jamel Skate Park, which is now bringing in both regional and national level events of action sports to the inner city of Houston, which wasn't happening before. So with this, we have our opportunity. We just wanted to voice it and say, we'd like to see possibly something like this happen here. It's a great opportunity for us. We'd like to put it out there and say, you know, skateboarding is great. It's a good sport. It's not the grungy outfit that a lot of people have labeled it in past years. And fortunately for us, as the sport is progressing, this next year in 2020, for the first time in the Summer Olympics, skateboarding is going to be a part of that and all that momentum and have something for the youth in the inner city. One thing I saw while you were running your slide up here is that all those parks that were mentioned, not one of them had anything specific for the kids to skate. In the inner city downtown, because we're located right there on Broadway between Houston and Travis Street, all the kids are skating on the street, they're skating on these businesses. There's a lot of conflict between the business owners, building owners, developers, and the youth themselves trying to just express themselves. It's a very artistic and creative sport, and we like to see that be done in a more positive way, and a way that helps boost the community as well. So I took it upon myself to reach out to the Tony Hawk Foundation, which specializes in working with municipalities and local governments to see if they would be willing to possibly even work with us just on, insight, at the very least, maybe even a grant, we don't know. We just reached out to them, but in short words, they came back to me and said, yes, we'd love to work with y'all. We'd love to see this. We'd love to develop this and bring national level things to San Antonio. As the sport progresses, as time progresses, change is sometimes hard to see and hard to deal with. But as it goes, I think it benefits all of us that we should be looking at this.
I have a question. Thanks for your input. Skate park. And what we was talking about a decade ago. And having said all that, how many acres do you think to be effective to be?
I would say, and this is just off the top of my head, I'm just estimating. We have 3 acres out there. It would have to be a mixed-use space, so I would hope that we could at least get half that, if not 2 acres of that, to do what we need to do. And then we could also get more to supply for event-style stuff and different mixed-use art. Obviously, this part of town is very heavy on art. That actually intertwines with skateboarding and action sports culture very, very much. So I think there could be some sort of agreement. And again, I'm just estimating on what this is. I couldn't put it on me. But if it was up to me, I'd do it.
Well, the reality of the situation is, in the skate community, you can't cut is the minimum that was expected to be the needs of the
Don't let me lie to you here. I don't know the actual square footage, but I could figure that out. And I would like to see at least a 20,000 square foot, 25,000 square foot skate park, which would be one of the largest in San Antonio. Now, we do have a large skate park in San Antonio, which is the Pearsall Skate Park. That is way out from the beaten path, and it's very hard to get to for climbers. And this is a good way to bring them in, keep them active, keep them from going and having too much conflict with also the business owners and developers and the building owners.
Monica Savinko.
That was great.
Good evening, my name is Monica Savino. I live here in the neighborhood in Dinwiddie Hill Park. I'm in Dinwiddie Hill, and it turns out that the idea of the skate park is a really good idea. It got me thinking while I'm sitting here. I wanted to talk about one issue, but I think this adds a second one. As the team, the design team is looking for conceptual cues and clues. You've been down to Confluence Park, okay? That's about the physical confluence of water and how it settled that community. What the skateboarders brought to mind was the mobility, contemporary mobility, right? And this park is about rail history, engineering, logistics with the rail, mobility, and the skateboarding and the cycling works perfect. So there is a great conceptual cue for it. This is it's a thing that brought the early settlers here, modern settlers from the 1800s, and it bridged people together, but it is a story of mobility and action and physics, right? Bridges, engineering. But what I originally wanted to talk about was the view shed. Because as we know, the view shed for downtown from the bridge is awesome. You can see all across the western side of our city. Sometimes you can even see the hills over at Fort Sam behind us. The view shed down into the park program in itself would be a fun thing to work on, right? Because you work on plans, oftentimes like so, but we experience things in section. Here, we're going to see that plan, right? And there's the view shed now from Lamar, Cherry, anywhere along those public right-of-ways. If there's a way that the design and the activity of your plans can acknowledge that, highlight that. You know, the view shed on the bridge tells you where you are in the city. Puts you in perspective of the city. When you're down on the line Cherry, it tells you where the bridge is, in your neighborhood is, in the realm, greater realm of the city. This is something much bigger than downtown. The city has done a great job making north and south. This
Followed by Marilyn Davis, Marlon Davis.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Fortune, but I am a founder of a skateboarding company called Post and Wax, and I'm here to give my vote on the skateboarding park. We have to have lights. I think that it will be very educational for the younger skaters that maybe have broken home or at home, and they just want to come out and get away from that. And the older skaters are always accepting and teaching them the right and wrong way of doing things. And I want to give a shout out to Grip and Grain. We got Dave Skateboards, Southtown, Alta Vista, Inspiration. We got a lot of companies that are going to be voting for the skate park to support it because there's not really much. Like Damien was saying about downtown, we have to deal with getting harassed and getting tickets, and we don't really just have a place to skate. We got to make our own spots, and this will help preserve the history of San Antonio when we won't go on those spots because we don't have anywhere else to go. We have a designated spot downtown, and we have a lot of artists that we can reach out, and I'm sure they could do murals to represent all the history that has been talked about, and you can even, if you can get donated railroad cards from the view, you can have it in the shape of a train or something or whatever like that. I just want to give my vote. I'm not really big on public speaking, but
But it's been my thought for many, since this thing started, that skateboard park would be ideal for that area. Because our young kids, these kids right here, they don't have anywhere to go to play. You know, they can go up here, but there's really not any facilities up here at these two parks. There's a little playground there, but it's, that's probably useless, and an exercise park. But they don't have anywhere to go to express themselves, and I think a skateboard park would be just ideal. Plus, as this gentleman right here was saying, it could bring international competition here, which is great economically for the Eastside. So I think it's a great idea. Thank you. Marlon Davis.
Hello everyone, my name is Marlon Davis, and I'm not actually from Detroit Hill, but I was born and raised on the East Side. So as a long-time East Side, a third generation actually, and a member of the Hayes Restoration Group, I am just overjoyed to see all of you here and see that we are at this point in the process. So as you heard, so those from folks who came from myself, this bridge didn't come from nothing, right? And this park didn't come from nothing. This comes because the entire generation before us never lost sight of what was important to them and fighting for this. Because they were raised by a family of folks that never lost sight of what would be present for their kids beyond the constraints of something like segregation or struggle. And so I think it's important today as we take upon the kind of mantle of this history that we enact the proper future so that we might never lose sight of a street bridge. But of course, this isn't all about just sightlines or architecture at all. This is also about the unique identity of the East Side itself. The irony is not lost on me. It's so enjoyable to hear people talk about the railroads today, but the irony is not lost on me that once upon a time, and even till today, this neighborhood was considered to be on the wrong side of those tracks. Yeah. But here now we stand with this very rare opportunity to be authors of a new story where this is a place of opportunity, because that's what the bridge has always been, a symbol of connecting folks to that kind of opportunity, to, as many said, elevate themselves and find themselves in a great position, whether that is a mantle of a skate park or whatever sort of unique sort of facilities that we develop here together as a community. But I do think it's important that we honor that kind of unique cultural signature and that we craft something that people want to use, something that educates, informs, and engages the community from now on generations to come. So thank you all. For a little bit more about the history that Eddie Gibson was so kind enough to share with us, you can find out another member of the Hayes Restoration Group. We're going to have a little timeline to hand out to you.
skaters messed me up. It messed me up. 'Cause I was gonna go, I was thinking in a different direction. But the reality of the situation is, it's just firing, Miss Carter, and I'm gonna stop you on it.
Okay.
That we remember the cultural significance of the Hay Street Bridge and that surrounding area. People of color derived a living for many, many years, a good living here from that. In the late 80s, when they closed that economic segregation started to put quicksand under people's feet. It was just now, in the last 15 years or so, 12 years or so, give or take, that we're starting to see a resurgence. Some of you never left. Some of you are like, what are you doing here? That's what I said about the skate guys. But the point is, I think there's a way to have a conversation where everybody can get something out of this. It's a public space. It's symbolic in a lot of things. We wouldn't be having this conversation if Amy hadn't thrown hit a home run all the way to the Supreme Court, and under Eric Ross and Hall, we're committed to getting something done. So I think in good faith, I don't know if you can have 2 acres, brother, but I think we can find something that works for everybody.
Compromise.
The historic significance is critical. If we don't tell our story, it'll be lost. Thank you.
Ryan Ford?
I'm going to take a little bit of time. One, I just want to appreciate and acknowledge it's really hard to get this capacity of people in a space. We've been doing this for quite a while, and we haven't seen a turnout like this in a long time, so really appreciate y'all taking the time to come out here. I want to emphasize a little bit more about the historical stuff, even all the way up to where we are today. As Nettie was saying, the long battle that happened all prior to this, but even the story of what's happening now leading up to this needs to be a part of that bridge. And also I want to just take into consideration that, we don't really have a lot of property here to work with, so if we could work with the city or have any opportunities for parking to be located at either potentially Goddess Lumber or any other spaces around here that won't affect the neighborhood, so that we can actually have as many of these ideas as possible in the space.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm going to cut Thomas, and then we'll have a couple more questions, but I do want to get to, we may not have time to vote today, but I do want to talk about the next location of where we want to meet, because I want to make sure that we're meeting your needs. We picked this location because we know any Lockwood neighborhood meets here, and this was just something that was very convenient and it was free. And so I just want everybody to know that.
It's free?
Yeah.
We do have an auditorium.
Yeah, we wanted the auditorium, but they said it was under construction. We'll maybe if that's something we want to do. Thomas?
Hey, what's up? Thomas Tate, local skateboarder. I love parks. Ever since I was a kid, I spent most of my time out at the parks and not at home. So if we could do something, you said 3 acres is what this plot is?
Yes.
If we could do something to like make skateboarding and history and art and play skates, like utilize all of that to like the fullest. That'd be sick. And then with the skate park, pool coping, big walls, poles, and a lot of other stuff.
Very good, thank you, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I just had a question. Out of all the parks within the 5-minute walking radius, how many have public bathrooms that are available to the citizens who want to hike, bike, and skate?
Maverick is going to get one. Maverick on Broadway.
On the other side of the
On the other side of the freeway. Lockwood Dignity is something that they very much want. So we're hoping that we'll be able to afford that. So those are the next 2 that are coming up.
Well, so I was at the last Dignawood meeting, I think, or before, and that was very iffy. I mean,
It probably could be just because permanent restrooms are horribly expensive.
they have restrooms at Fairchild.
Right, Fairchild. Exactly.
Restrooms at Harbor Line. Just about every.
Fairchild.
Bikers need bathrooms and water.
Yes, they do. Bathrooms and water.
That's part of how it be like a biker.
So I want to thank you all very much. I've led several of these, but I do want to ask, where shall we have the next meeting?
Here.
Here.
Place the bathroom.
Great job.
That'd be a little too dangerous. They're not, they come out of your house.
Okay, so
I think you will, yeah.
okay, this one has red. Please only get one. Red dot. We'll turn these around. Put things you don't want. A lot of these images you're going to have seen in the presentation earlier. There's a few more than we had before. Like I said, an only list. So if you want to come up here and if dots, you got the red dots for no, then okay. We gotta hurry. And this is the start. Let me just give you a start thing. The other one, no, the only thing that matters is ready or no.